Hello and welcome to another episode of Andy and Ian Talk Networking. I am Andy.
And I'm Ian.
Hey Ian, and this week we are going to talk, I think, about something kind of a bit more boring rather than the really interesting stuff and
Boring? It's
packets and
not boring.
bits
It's
and
not
bytes. We're going to
boring.
talk about drives, disk drives, disks, and general storage capabilities. Sounds boring, but ultimately, actually, it's quite an interesting subject because it has a whole lot of connotations around the whole observability and your packet capture capability within
Yes,
your observability tool. So it's kind of a
absolutely.
bit boring when you start talking about we're going to talk about hard drives now, but actually there's some really interesting data points that people should understand when they're
Yes,
choosing their packet capture capabilities and the types of drives that are in that. And maybe it's going to directly impact things like their costs and their budgets and their storage retention and a whole load of other data points. So let's start off with kind of at a high level the different types of drives that there are, why there are different types of drive, and then kind of the impacts that those drives have on your packet capture capabilities.
wow. As I say, I personally find it very exciting to talk about these kinds of subjects, but then that's probably just
It's just you.
me. Um, the key thing was, we and obviously other vendors have been using hard disks for a long time. The classic spinning drives or platters or whatever, however you exactly want to think about it. So they're really the kind of the mainstay of packet capture systems. You then also have SSDs or flash based type systems. Obviously, things like NVMe and other types of slight variations on a theme, but still a kind of a flash based system. And then, obviously, kind of in a slightly different dimension, you have the idea of having self encrypted drives,
Mm-hmm.
SED
Yeah.
systems, if you are very concerned about that packet data. And we have
Yeah.
many customers who do also get excited about that, and they need those SED based devices. So all those are kind of, shall we say, three key variants. And then you also obviously have the ability to have extensible type storage systems,
Yeah.
which you could call a JBOD. That's obviously one word for it. Just a bunch of disks is the acronym. And that's really usually an external system. There's not a lot of intelligence in those devices. They usually are just literally as it says, just a bunch
Palette
of
of
disks.
discs.
And then lastly, there's one other teeny little thing, which is the idea of potentially using off system storage,
Mm-hmm.
which is more common now. Maybe like an S3
Yeah.
protocol.
Yep.
And that's not just for cloud, let's be really clear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure all of those vendors on prem who use the S3 protocol for certain types of storage systems would be very upset if
Yeah.
people just thought it was just in the cloud. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of exciting things to talk about when it comes to storage options.
Yeah, and when you look at the disk types, I mean, obviously traditional hard disk drives have been around, for as long as I can remember. But they are kind of getting to the end of their capabilities now with the physical spinning media,
Yeah.
the density, the power, the size, and their longevity. So we but the advantage is they're cheap. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's traditional hard disk drives. You can pick up, multi-terabyte drives now, which if you bundle them together into a 19-inch chassis, you can get a lot of very high density storage in a fairly condensed space. Whereas when you go to things like SSDs and things like that, it's you're not going to get that same density. You're going to get other advantages in that generally SSDs are faster. Certainly on their read cycles, they're considerably faster. But there is always that trade off between density versus kind of speed effectively. And that's why, kind of when you look at different architectures for packet capture, maybe there's a place for both. When you start looking at, short term cache where you can use maybe an SSD versus long duration storage where maybe you can parse a lot of that data off into hard disk drives. So yeah, there's definitely trade-offs between those two. And a lot of the issues when you're looking at that is disk failures. This is a big discussion we have. When you're doing network observability and you have petabytes of data that you're storing at 100, 200, 400 gigabits per second from multiple, Ethernet ports. So you're trying to capture all of that data. You need the speed, but you also, because of regulations, may need to hang on to that data for quite a long period of time. So having
Yeah.
some kind of a trade-off between those, kind of two is really important.
I'm telling you, it is a huge discussion, and just to literally throw the cat among the pigeons. I mean, I think that it's important to kind of consider that whole, and I'll just use RAID as a kind of
Yeah.
an overarching kind of comment about that. Some folks get very excited about RAID. Some people believe it's important because they know it's important for their own
Well, in their
personal
enterprise, exactly.
machines
Yeah.
and enterprise type things. But for packet capture systems, the cat among the pigeons is that RAID actually hinders
Yeah.
the the capabilities on a packet capture system. Because when, assuming you detect the disk has failed or drive has failed, I should say, and you replace it, as that system is rebuilding, you are impacting your capture performance. And by the time you have rebuilt it, the data that
Yeah.
you were trying to protect or trying to recover, so you've impacted the size, you've
Yeah.
impacted the performance, and ultimately, by the time you get around to having rebuilt, and these are very large systems in
Yes.
terms of
Yeah.
numbers of drives,
Petabytes. Yeah. Yeah.
bottom line is it's not going to matter,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right? So
Well,
yes, obviously losing any packet
yeah.
is a problem,
But it's
etc.
not
But
just the
actually, it's
packet
not.
capture though. You've got to analyze all that data as well. So again,
Ah, great point,
so
Andy.
so
Yeah.
it's great. You're pumping in 1 or 200 gigabits per second into your storage, and while your RAID is rebuilding, how much performance are you using? Which now means you can't analyze and index all those sessions, all that TCP data, all that application analytics is all going to be offline while you're basically rebuilding to recover a packet that you may or may not ever want to look at.
It's a huge thing, and as I said before, kind of little tongue in cheek, it is a little bit about the cat among the pigeons. There's a lot of kind of strongly held beliefs on these things, but you're making an excellent point that I hadn't made earlier. It's not just about the capture;
Yeah,
it's about indexing, it's about analytics, and making sure that you really understand exactly what's going on. And if you're using a RAID type system, that's going to really negatively impact that, exactly as you're saying.
yeah,
So the spirit is the questions that people who are listening to this, who are considering a packet capture system for their environment, you absolutely need to understand size and ultimately the retention period based
yeah,
on the capture rate that you believe your infrastructure will need. You
yeah,
know, 2 gigabits per second, 10,
yeah.
20, 40,
And whatever you
100,
choose, it'll be wrong
200.
in 6 months.
Well, but that is also an important
Yes,
factor. I
absolutely.
mean,
Yeah,
that's almost another episode in itself.
yeah.
The idea of how do you protect the size
Protect yourself in
of
the
your
future. Yeah,
in
yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah,
Building for the future. But the point being is that once you've understood that and you know how long you need to keep this data for, that and then what analytics you want to see, all of those factors are going to be able to easily help you decide which vendor is the one that you think
yeah.
is going to
And
offer the
which
best
technology
answer to
is
that.
the disk that you want within
Yes.
that? Exactly. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely correct, Andy. And as I say, we have a lot of customers doing all kinds of different things to be able to solve these problems. And my absolute favorite, Andy, if you don't mind me sharing it, is that we have one of our customers and they actually extract PCAPs that they want to keep and they send it across to an actual software front end to a tape storage system. I mean, this goes way back in
yeah.
the day in some sense, but these systems, they're part of the, shall we say, the rich tapestry of
Network
storage
infrastructure.
things that
Yes.
exist in the enterprises of the people who are listening to
Yeah,
this video.
yeah,
And it's very important that these things are not dismissed. It's not just, well, hey, if we're not doing SSDs, we're not living.
yeah.
Actually, you need to consider multiple questions
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
multiple challenges before you can make that air quotes easy decision. It's
yeah.
very, very important indeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's yeah, that's a good place to kind of segue away. I think to another discussion, but for sure, I think it's yeah, it's really important to get the right technology for your use case, and having a
Yes.
partner slash vendor who's happy to talk to you and kind of solve and architect that with you is really important. So yeah, a great conversation. Thanks, Ian. You turned it into an interesting conversation as opposed to a boring hard disk drive discussion, which is always fun, always part of the thing. So just to say thank you and invite everybody please to like and subscribe down below. Very useful. Get notified when Ian and I get bored and put out another video. And also it gives you an opportunity to give us feedback and tell us if you want us to talk about any other subject. More than happy to talk about RAM and DRAM if that's what you guys want to talk about. We can find a reason to put that into a networking discussion. So yeah, once again, thanks everybody for watching. I have been Andy.
I have been Ian.
See you again soon.